All right, so in this tutorial, I want to show you guys how we can export. So I have my composition here, as you can see. Now, the first thing to do would be to select the composition that you want to export, for example, this one. And then we go to File, and then Export, and then Export or Add to Render Queue. All right, that's the first method. Once here, you have the render settings and you have the output module. And there, output 2, you want to select the file where you want to import this composition. Now for the current settings, as you can see right here, it will copy the quality of your composition. All right, so if it's 4K, it will copy 4K. If it's 1080p, it will copy 1080p. Now here you can change, for example, do you want best or draft? I will recommend that you leave it at current settings. And here you can change the resolution. For example, let's say you just want to test the file or test the composition. You don't want to export in full resolution to save time. You can choose, for example, third, or you can choose quarter just so you can take a look at your final composition. Now, in my case, I'm going to leave it at full. And then right here, of course, you can choose that. Do you want to export the effect as well? So in this case, I'm going to use current settings. And if you want to export without effects, of course, you can choose all off. All right, so now for these parts, we're going to leave it alone. Pretty much it's self-explanatory. Once you're happy, you can click OK. Then right here, output model, you want to click here. And then you can choose the format from here. Okay, so do you want to export as a QuickTime codec or MP4 codec, for example? Render action, you can choose import or leave it at none. And then right here, you can choose, of course, what kind of performance do you like to work with? Do you want the PC, the hardware encoding, or do you want the software encoding? Right here, we have the bitrate, and that, for example, that means the higher the quality of a video, the more bitrates you will need. And it's quite different from video resolution. It's not the same thing. So bitrate is how much data is used to fill in the picture, whereas resolution is the pixels. So right here, for example, 2 is fine, but if you're working with 1080p resolution, you want to have like 10 bitrates, which is the recommended bitrate to have. If you're working with more, like 2K, you want to have more. And then, of course, just click OK. Now, if I had choose, for example, QuickTime, right here, you can click on Format Options, and you can choose, let's say you want to export to Apple ProRes. Okay, and then you can click OK, and then OK. And then once everything is set and done, you can click on Render. And it's going to go ahead, of course, and render your composition. All right, so that's the first way to do it. So personally, I always export using Adobe Media Encoder. So if you go to File again, click on Add to Adobe Media Encoder. You will have your composition here. And as you can see here, when you export with Adobe Media Encoder, you have much more options that you can choose from. All right. And of course, right here, you can choose the format or the codec of your video. Do you want to export as MP4, or do you want to use QuickTime, or you want to export as GIF animation? That will, of course, be up to you. Right here, of course, you can choose where do you want to output your composition or your rendered video. And then once you're happy, of course, with the settings, you can just click on play.